Roquan Smith has been traded to the Baltimore Ravens
Yes.
for a second round pick and a fifth round pick. I think that's actually really good value for a player on an expiring contract for the Chicago Bears, who, uh, Ryan Poles is going to want to rebuild this team in his image, and that's going to require selling off some assets. And they're not. I thought that the uh, Giants would be in this position to trade some players, but they're winning, so they're probably just going to stand pat, I would imagine, even though there's been some rumors that they're in the trade market for Brandon Cooks. I don't understand that, but regardless, I just feel like it's a good move for them, and he was not going to re-sign in Chicago, it seems like, given the way that negotiations went with polls and the fact that Roquan Smith represents himself, which always creates a level of emotion in some of these negotiations that might be a bit abated when you have an agent as a go-between. But regardless, Roquan Smith no longer a Chicago Bear, and at least for the rest of this season, he'll be a Baltimore Raven, and he's a perfect fit for that defense. That defense has not lived up to its normal standard with the departure of Wink Martindale and just some personnel issues on that side of the ball. I mean, I still think their secondary is not very good, even though I saw Kyle Hamilton made some plays in that Thursday night football game, safety out of Notre Dame, first round pick. But,
And it's one of those things where it's not as if they don't have talented guys. I mean, Chuck Clark is talented, Marcus Peters is talented,
but they're
Kyle Hamilton.
older.
They're older, and it's a combination of like you said, kind of like veterans aging, but also young guys still like finding their footing.
Right.
And
I guess
while you see
Brandon
flashes,
Stevens isn't older, but
yeah,
Marcus Peters is.
and while there is, you see flashes, but then there is also times where you see them get burned or see like a kind of a boneheaded penalty or an unnecessary penalty. And I think even beyond the secondary concerns, they've struggled to, to get a consistent pass rush going, a consistent kind of either four-man rush or blitz going where they're actually getting pressure on the quarterback. So, and it's kind of a similar thing there too, because they have the older guys in Justin Houston and Calais Campbell, and then they have just
Jason Pierre-Paul,
and
they signed off the street.
and then guys like Justin Matabike who are much younger and kind of similar thing.
Or
It's like-
Odafe Owe,
or Odafe Owe, yes.
who's coming on a little bit more, right?
right.
That's
I'm confident in him. It's just I think it's
yeah. Well,
on-ramping.
it's too much on him. That's the thing.
Right.
And so
exactly.
I even now that I think about it more, there's even more age on their defensive line with Calais Campbell.
Yeah,
and
oh,
Houston.
sure, yeah.
So what this does is it takes some pressure off of Owe. Patrick Queen will be able to kind of do his thing now that he has some help.
And ideally not have to constantly be dropping back into coverage, because
right.
that's they've been they've had a few plays where they've really just been burned because Queen has basically been kind of targeted in one-on-one situations.
But
and
he's improving too. They're seemingly finding their footing, and then this is like, I mean, Roquan Smith is a top 5 linebacker, interior
totally.
linebacker
He's a fantastic
in the NFL.
player.
And so that could be a really dynamic linebacking group for this year, and if they re-sign him, that could be really exciting.
And I think it could give them some real lineup versatility defensively, where he's a pretty all-around player. I trust him. I would trust him mostly in coverage, and honestly, and when he can get home, like, he's a great blitzer. So like I think it's a really good pickup for them to kind of shore up a weakness and kind of bring also not just a high intensity, highly skilled guy, but clearly a high character guy, high IQ guy, like someone to just like really comprehensively fit up their defense a little bit. And I think it also goes to show that, like, regardless of some of their struggles, they're only trying to improve. They're not giving up on the season. They're trying to remain competitive.
They should trade for a receiver. I mean,
I think they must.
Rashad Bateman injured. Then you can't have Devin Duvernay.
Mark Andrews isn't even fully healthy.
Andrews is
who's
not,
their offensive fulcrum, essentially.
and now we're going to rely on a very talented but still a rookie, Isaiah Likely, to kind of carry this team too much on Lamar.
Totally.
Too much always on Lamar. And even the way that Greg Roman designs the passing offense, you see this regression now because they catch on. Like,
He
teams
drives
catch
me
on.
insane.
There is no creativity in the passing
I don't
game.
understand why he is employed still.
Because of Lamar.
Because
Lamar carries the team. It's like why was Mike McCarthy still employed as the head coach of the Packers for so long? Well, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, why did Ben McAdoo become the head coach of the Giants? Aaron Rodgers. He was his quarterbacks coach, and then he became OC, and then whatever, and then Odell.
Yeah, right. It's it's a lot of these like chain reactions, kind of like taking like a sample, being like, oh, like this guy was really great for a season, or like this guy, so we might as well give him a much larger role and see what he does well.
Well, I think that we've almost even evolved from that point too, where at least there are coaching trees that are bearing fruit on the offensive side of the ball. Like, since McAdoo was the head coach of the Giants, which was 10 years ago at this, no, 6,
yeah,
because that was the boat party season.
Oh yeah.
That the
back.
and other guys like that. There's been and I think it's the Mahomes effect, an explosion of an understanding of what it means to be an offensively creative mind.
Totally.
And Shanahan has helped with that, and McVay has helped with that as well. So I feel like there's less of that effect, but with Greg Roman, I feel like he is being carried by the run game, and I think that the run game could be a lot more effective. This is not a 49ers run game where the blocking and the zone is so creative that you just don't know where it's coming from, and it could be that. And then the passing offense is just very subpar. So I want Lamar to succeed. I want Lamar to win a Super Bowl. Nothing would make me happier except if the Giants won one. So I think Greg Roman needs to be looked at with a bit more of a side eye, but regardless, still good news for the Ravens organization to have Roquan.
You're absolutely right though. I think in terms of like the need, for more receiving talent, because listen, obviously, like we've said, the Ravens know how to draft these guys. Bateman's been looking pretty great, but looking pretty good for them. But like you said, huge workload for a guy that's basically kind of a number one option, like his like second year in the league, and even like let alone like second full season, and he's not fully healthy. And like I think as we've always seen, there is clearly a limit to the QB tight end connection that isn't like Mahomes and Travis Kelce, because Mark Andrews is great, but he's not like an X receiver like Kelce is. He's not the same guy as Kelce is necessarily.
And even there's a limit to that too. I mean,
Absolutely.
We saw that
it can be.
You need someone to stretch the field. Right. Yeah. Right. Tyreek Hill. Yes, you can put 2 safeties deep. But if he burns those guys,
there's no one there.
Right. So that's now he's being used differently in Miami, but at that point, that's why that was the most dangerous offense we'd ever seen in the history of the league.
But also, the reason I brought up knowing how to draft them is because like it was awesome to see Isaiah Likely get that touchdown, and it was awesome to see like it was a great throw, great route by that guy. But like you said, lots to put on these guys who were essentially de facto unproven. And G Burns in the YouTube chat suggested McCole Hardman to Baltimore would be okay. I actually think that would be a pretty good. But
he had a productive last game, so I don't know if they're going to do that.
No, I don't think they would want to deal him necessarily. But I see what he's saying. In the
they could have taken Kadarius Toney,
right?
But
maybe in the sense of somebody who would add the speed element that they don't have, but then also could even be put in run packages. Because like Hardman, I think either the 2 weeks ago had a rushing touchdown or 2, so they were using him in great ways because he's so fast.
Yeah, sweep him. I mean, they seem to think that McCole Hardman could play a similar role to Tyreek Hill, but he's not. It doesn't seem like he is as good at tracking the ball down.
No, I think route running, like that type, is like the specificity of certain things that I think like that Reed can essentially process like while he's running 100 miles an hour. Like that's like hard to replicate.
Yeah.
But I think for some of those more kind of like creative run pass packages, I could see that. But like you said, he's been productive, so hard to think he'd be on the market.
Right.